And so I can comfortably say, I'm going to send this referral out, because it's one thing to send the referral and it's another thing to get paid. So you can send a referral all day long and they could be just random people. You just pick somebody on a list. Oh, they work in this market here. Go talk to this person and hopefully you'll get your 25% referral check. But how much better is it if you send it to someone that actually is going to close them? Welcome to the Realtor-ish podcast. I'm your host, Juliana Gainsberg. This podcast is all about helping entrepreneurs grow their business through real estate and business development strategies. In each episode, my guests and I will chat about the real when it comes to real estate. If you like what you hear, follow us on your favorite streaming platform. Welcome back to the Realtor-ish podcast. My name is Juliana Gainsberg. If you don't know me already, this is my podcast. And today I have a very special guest. I know I say everyone's special because most of the people that come on here, pretty much everyone is. However, one of my best friends, Connor Tuck, here today. Woo, yeah, Connor Tuck. Hey, how are you? How you doing?
Oh, stellar today, Juliana. Absolutely stellar.
I know that you had a little mishap.
On the way here?
Inconvenience on the way here.
Just life. And
some people would have canceled on me. Like, oh, flat tire, gotta go.
No, I'll just drive it on the flat. I don't have long to go and I'll fix it afterwards. So yeah. You're more important.
Oh, that's so kind of you. I mean, that just goes to show how you're just a reliable person.
Yeah, and I also put this above the health and safety of everybody in South Jersey, so I do apologize for that. But I will get back to square.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not a big deal. So anyways, we're in our semi-workout clothes today. I'm going to the gym after this, so I have an excuse. And I also told you just come casual so that you didn't look better than me.
Well, that's true. And Monday, Fridays, like I mentioned, are office biz dev days. Tuesday through Thursdays are the heavy appointment days, if I can slot them in that way.
What is your lead gen schedule? You said you don't do Mondays?
Yeah, for me, I find I try and treat the people that I'm lead genning how I like to be treated. Kind of a golden rule for me. And I don't like when people call me on Mondays. Yeah. Mondays are my days to start my week right. And I sort of push a lot of people's interests outside and it allows me to start. So for me, I just find I have a lot better reception with people throughout the week. And generally my Friday lead gen, I'll bump from the morning to the afternoon because I get a lot of people in that 2 to 5 range at work that are sort of done work for the week. And they're like, God, I'd love to chat with somebody for 20 minutes if they happen to call me. So I actually get pretty good responses from that lead gen.
Do you ever lead gen on the weekend?
No, never. Actually, I'm trying as much as I can to remove real estate from my weekends, other than appointments and after this the Eagles win the Super Bowl this year. Just putting it out there.
Manifesting.
Forward facing. Yeah, exactly. I'll be doing a little more open houses this year. Chatting with my maps coach. I've taken a hiatus off open houses the past 2 years with an intent to take back my weekends, but I'm gonna start peppering them back in a little bit. But no structured real lead gen on the weekends.
Speaking of maps coaching, well, first. I'm going to circle back to this. First, for people who don't know you, give me your little spiel.
All right, let me give you the rundown. So, my name's Connor Tuck, born and raised in South Jersey. I've been living here pretty much my whole life, except for lived a couple years in Colorado, went to Boulder, Colorado for finance out there, moved to Manhattan and did music production for a year up there, living right off Central Park. And then realized when personal training paid terribly to get into real estate. So I just hit my 8 years in real estate full time, always been with KW Morristown in New Jersey there. I'm dual licensed in New Jersey and in Pennsylvania, but PA was really, let's be real, it was really just for the listings for the buyers who are coming to Jersey. I probably won't be running any buyers. That's what I have you for in Philly. But my journey through KW has been fairly unique. When I first started, our market center was a little bit smaller and things like that. And I came in just as a solo agent, as we all do. Very quickly, though, found that the team environment was going to be a big fit for me. So I immediately joined Kristen Holloway, who was an agent out of our market center at that time, one of the originals. And I was with her for about 15 months. Learned a lot from Kristen. She ran a very specific business. And, I was also super young. I was only 24, 25 at this point. And I found it was just almost like a poor, just too hot type team for me. It was I really admire the way she runs it. But at that stage of my career, it was too structured. So I rebelled a little bit and I had to step back and I tried the solo agent thing again. And I'll be honest, I had very little success. I did very poorly after I left her team on my own for about a year. I may have only closed 1 or 2 deals that year. But what I did do, and what I think set a lot of the big foundational work for what came later, was focusing a lot on the technology side. Right, I had read a book called The Conversion Code by Chris Smith. I had started getting into, getting to Gary Vaynerchuk stuff, Crush It. and all that. And I really fell in love with kind of online sales funnels and fell in love with that side of things. So explored that a ton over that year, and then had the opportunity to join another team. At that point, there was a gentleman, Ray Morehouse, who is still, and I say this out loud, no offense to anybody I've ever done real estate with, but Ray is still to this day one of the most knowledgeable individual real estate agents I've ever worked with. So I had an opportunity to learn from him. And he at that time needed somebody, little ops background, little social media background, little tech background, help them CRM up a little bit, help get on a customer relationship management tool. So I spent a year with him, and that was my first I'll call it my first breakout year in real estate, when I went from just sputtering around with a couple transactions, actually got on a team, actually started doing some consistent business, was the lead buyer's agent handling pretty much all the live Zillow leads that we were doing at that point. And so had a really nice year that year. And unfortunately, like everything is in life, you can't count your chickens, and you can't just bet that everything will last forever. Unfortunately, one morning I wake up and we're right in the flow of business. Everything was going good. And I got a call at 8 a.m. from, when you get a call at 8 a.m. on I think it was like a Monday from your boss, when you really weren't expecting that call, you're a little like, okay, what's going on? And found out that him and the entire team had been planning for a while that they were going to leave for Compass.
Yeah.
So I was left.
Which actually happens often, that like a team leader is like, hey, we're going to XYZ brokerage and you can do whatever you want, but we're all going. So it's either you come or you stay. It's your decision.
And the hard thing for me about all this was that I was the only one on the team who didn't know about this. The other buyers, they were actually hiring another buyer's agent behind the scenes, prepping him to basically take over.
Why do you think that is? You think that they knew?
I know exactly why it was.
Okay, that's
100% why. And I would tell it to all of them involved, and I would tell it to the people who, side I basically would have taken. And I was very close with my market center staff.
Yeah.
Joe Ryan is a fantastic team leader. He's been that team leader for almost 10 years at KW Morristown. I owed him a ton of fealty and loyalty. It's just MJ Lala, who was over there, just a lot of the other people that were
all great people.
Fantastic. And basically what they said was, Connor, we know that you're too entrenched in the market center and you have too much going on with them, with the technology and everything like that and teaching. And we needed to keep this close to the vest. And they were sort of a family run team and things like that. So
that makes sense.
I'm not complaining that they didn't fill me in on every single step of their process, but I would have liked a little bit more of a heads up than, hey, you're having the greatest year in real estate in your life. By the way, here's the rug. I'm going to rip it out from under you.
Yeah.
Didn't like that.
It's kind of effed up.
They made the
not
best.
at the same time, because maybe like there's, you don't like when people make decisions for you, right? Like, who are you to know what the best is for me? And yet sometimes people do that even out of like thinking that they are doing what's good for you. So maybe like in his mind or their mind, like this is probably better for him to stay.
So it's funny you mentioned that. So let's now fast forward a little bit, right? So just a couple months after that, I ended up taking me and Ray went out for a really nice dinner at Yard House. We went there for almost 3.5 hours, just the two of us. And that I really appreciated that. After this all shook out, after it all went out, and he really sat me down and he just said, Connor, I obviously would love to keep you on the team, right?
Yeah.
I would love that. And I said, of course. But he said, I see what you're doing inside of Keller Williams. And I see that is a very fertile playground for you at your age for what you want out of this industry, and not just a sales aspect, but you also want to learn about the organizational aspect of this business and the leadership side.
Yeah.
And he said, in my heart of hearts, I don't think I could have asked you to leave.
Yeah.
So when it finally came full circle, as much as I didn't like the way it happened at the time, after the fact, I respected Ray for really thinking about me hard about that decision, and knowing that he also didn't want to put me in a position to have to choose between the two. He offered, of course, but at the dinner he said, you are welcome to leave KW and come to Compass.
Yeah, make your life,
Right, he did say, I said, but Ray, the answer.
Could you imagine though, like let's say you go there, culture is not the same, you don't find the same fulfillment, it's not as like, it's not of all the things that we like about KW. Like obviously that can be replicated anywhere, but let's say that you do make the decision, you leave, it's not it. And it's not it so bad that you just are out of the business. Like you just take a total different turn. Like that really could have changed like the whole trajectory of everything.
Would I've gone out of the business? I don't think so.
Probably not. But I'm just saying, you never know.
No. But the reasons of getting in the business, if it were only to be hunky-dory happy on a team, then yes, I could have been disenfranchised. But make no mistake, like a lot of real estate agents, my main intention with becoming an agent was to not be an agent forever. And it was to do more real estate investing and passive income and business strategy.
Yeah.
So I think that opportunity, the reason why I got in and the opportunity I had going forward had never left me.
Yeah.
Just the pathway in which I was going to arrive there may have been slightly different in a different time frame with different people. And that's why I don't think it would have called me out.
Got it. So at this point, you stay with KW. Is this when you became a market center tech trainer?
Well, so I had been an MCTT a little bit going into this.
Okay.
But what happened was that morning was very critical. So that morning, 8 a.m., I then arrived at the office. And just before I got in there, apparently that Ray and also a few other agents in our market center, they all jumped ship and all top producers. It was probably the largest single top producer leave that KW Morristown's ever had.
Yeah. Which
We've
happens.
rebounded incredible since then, even better since then. But that was a big thing. So I walk in at 9:30, kind of a little shadowed, and Joe Ryan brings me right in. He goes, sits me down. He goes, "What do you want to do?" Because he was like, "Are you leaving?" I was like, "No, Joe, I'm not leaving, right?" And he said, "Okay, good. What do you want to do?" And I was like, "Joe, I just had the best year of real estate, right? I'm finally hitting some financial and income goals that I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
So I want to be on a team environment again." Okay. He said, "Do you have any teams in mind?" I said, "At the moment, there were 2 teams. There was just this one other team I just won't really name."
Yeah. And by the way, like moving forward, you don't have to name anybody.
Yeah. But I'll name who I want to. But Sam Lepore was the other team.
I love
Sam at
What a
that
great
point
guy.
was definitely coming up. I think he had just had his first year as the number 1 team in Morristown area. He was like just starting to eclipse some of the other teams that were there. And I said that, and Joe said, "Well, I'll tell you what, this other team, they're actually downsizing at the moment. This other one, I'd probably stay clear."
Yeah.
But Sam, 100%. He said, "If I can get you a meeting, will you take it?" I must have met with Sam maybe a couple hours later, something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe I might have even just taken that day, and I met with him first thing the next morning. Sam slid his buyer agency agreement with me. We chatted for about 10, 15 minutes, and within an hour of meeting with him, I signed it. And I have been with him for about 3 years now since.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 years and like a month.
I have a lot of respect for the whole organization, the whole team.
Yeah. I mean, so now that I'm on
You
Sam's
guys just
team,
run a really tight ship.
Yeah.
And the marketing is incredible. I like that. And I don't know maybe we'll have him on at some point. I don't know what his original thoughts are, but I would assume that he has stepped out of his comfort zone a little bit to do more of the video and stuff like that. I don't know what his initial thoughts were.
Well, let me tell you a little bit. Let me rewind the clocks because you may not know this. And for our listening audience, there's some things for you to YouTube. Actually, a young Sam Lepore can be found in a couple episodes of some common TV shows that were filmed out in Los Angeles in the early 2000s.
Oh, wow. I would have never guessed that.
There's an episode of Friends where they got a wheeling a gurney outside at one point, and Sam is nurse number 2, standing there pushing Joey Trivia. Oh yeah, so Sam was no shy chicken around the camera. Sam at one point was trying to do some LA cameo stuff while he was out there. So actually,
I mean, he just does a great job with
does.
all the videos. Very the cadence of them.
Yeah.
Is very good, and I think that will just always bring business. People just want to be involved in that.
Yeah, Sam's cadence doesn't change whether there's a camera in front of him or not.
Yeah,
he is just Sam. And he just gets to be his
awesome.
identity, which I struggled with for my first 8 years in real estate, was an identity, right? Because I didn't have my SLG, my Sam Lepore group. I was
a lot of people do, though. A lot of people struggle with that. They struggle with imposter syndrome, in this realm of maybe even it's just in sales too. When you're at you look at other people that have done so well and you're doing all the right things, and then maybe even you're finding success, but you're you struggle with that gap between being aligned with those people and being below those people.
Well, imposter syndrome, I just think it'll be in any job you ever had.
Yeah.
I think in real estate it happens because since it doesn't cost any more to hire a professional than an amateur, right?
Yeah.
We all basically charge and are charged the same amount.
Yeah.
We feel as though we're trying to deliver on value when let's say an average realtor needs to be able to answer 100 questions in real estate, whatever 100 questions those are. As a new agent, obviously, you're probably not going to be able to hit all of those 100, but you're still charging like you do.
Yeah.
So I think, and I just talked to another agent about this at a certain point where they were still making decisions about going to more educational offerings. And I had to sit down with them at a certain point and say, hey, I get that you want to continue to go into all these educational offerings and you constantly want to put more in. But I said, every class that you're in, you have to understand there's an opportunity cost for that class. You're expecting to learn more to accelerate your growth in the future. Where if you don't go to that class, you could actually do the business and actually just start making tangible goals.
Yeah.
So to this person, I said, of those 100 questions in real estate, if you were to sit down in a group of 10 people that you were just in a networking group or you were at a family function and you sat down, do you think you'd probably have something to say on all 100 of those questions? He's like, oh my God, of course I would. At this point, yes. I said, then don't go to the class. And that's hard to say, right? In a culture full of education.
Yeah.
Occasionally, and we all know these in every single one of our KW market centers, but we have education junkies. We have people who only educate.
Well, not me now, but me at some point.
Right. Yeah, no, I think we all have to go through that when you're early on. You do go overemphasis on education, but there's a tipping point where going to the same class for the 5th time, while we can sell ourselves that, I get a little something different out of the class each time I go, or I'm going to take it with a different group of people, or I'm at a different stage of my business and now the message is going to hit me differently.
Which is sold to us.
Can all be true. True.
I think from
it's
trickled down, it's sold. You can read this book again and find something different. You can go to this class and learn something different because.
But let's be honest, the people that are telling us are the people that are putting on the classes who make it to make them look good to have people in that room. So of course they're going to say it in any way. It's objection handling.
Yeah, which good for them.
Yeah. So I think each realtor has to understand there is a point where more education and the opportunity cost of what that is for actually working in your business starts to become a net negative.
Yeah.
But that is such an intrinsic thing to each individual person, and you have to be acutely aware of who you are as a person and how much you are actually deferring the difficult work that's right in front of you to instead go to an entertainment class that you're selling to yourself that'll make me better in the future when I actually do go get to work.
Well, that's like we talk about, we were talking about this earlier, is how many times do you sit in a class and maybe take like 3-4 sheets of notes and implement nothing?
Yeah. Well,
like, what is the point of continuing to go to these educational events, whether you're paying for it or not, and learning all these great things and thinking about it and having conversations and talking to people and like reviewing your notes and blah, 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 blah. And then a year goes by and the class is back again and you've done nothing that you've learned from that. So implementation versus that is just.
All right. So I'll make that contrast very easy for you. Would you rather read 100 books this year or 6?
6.
Why?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to give you the right answer.
I think the 6 would be the right answer, but depending on what you want. If I'm just reading for a hobby, well, then I'd rather read 100 books because that's more of my hobby. I'm enjoying fiction or I'm enjoying autobiographies or I'm enjoying whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
But we read books as content for business development to improve the systems and processes of our business and of our own asset, which is ourself. If I'm doing that, to read 100 books a year, I have 3 days for each book to try and digest every single thing out of that book. No way am I going to be able to do that. No, especially a good book, right? So I would much rather chunk my year down to maybe even 4 books over the year, right? And take an entire quarter and read that book once through where I'm just underlining what catches my eye. Reading it back a second time where I'm then connecting some of the dots between the stuff I underlined, and then reading it a third time where I'm actually transcribing those notes into what I like to do as an outline form on my computer. And then I'm able to condense a book of, let's say, 150 pages down to basically 6 pages of an outline. And you always say like, I remember that book. I remember it every day I was reading. There was something really I loved, but it's hard for me to like go back to page 57 and find that again.
Yeah.
But when you do it in that three-time read in an outline form, I can pick up that outline in an hour and I can get every single motivational juice that I got out of that book with all the names of the tactics brought back to the top of my mind in a super efficient manner.
Yeah.
And now when I go to take that system and apply it to a problem I'm having in my business, I have from front to back, cover to cover the entire book and all the resources of the analytics from that book to then apply to the situation. So you can be efficient with your 6 or have fun with 100. And that's the same with our classes, right?
Yeah.
You can either go to 6 really intentional, important classes this year, or just start going to every single thing because you don't have anything to do and it's Tuesday at 4 and somebody of your agent services coordinator walks around the building saying, hey, we have a class to call and do you want to come sit in it?
Yeah.
Be intentional with your training.
Yeah. I think I'm much more intentional with my training now. However, when I was 20 years old, newly licensed, and, I was working like part-time as waitress and I didn't have any business, the thought process wasn't so much that I'm going to learn something different. It more so was, I'm just going to continue to put myself in a room with other agents and just listen to what other people are saying in addition to the class. And I do actually think that even though I would have considered myself a education junkie, I did learn a lot from putting myself in rooms with other agents and just learning how people talk. And I learned a lot of things that I use as like improv when talking to people about real estate before I knew anything about real estate. Yeah. So I think that was like a pro of doing that. But I got the award in 2020 at like the Office Market Center Awards for most attended classes. 99.
Wow. How's that participation trophy feel?
99 classes. Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Well, I was the same. My first 2 years in real estate, I accrued 53 CE credits.
Yeah,
you only need 12.
14.
Well, I went to triple play both times.
Yeah.
I took every class that they brought to the market center. I also tried to do the ABR, right, the accredited buyer representative course, and I'd gone to BCCR or Nexus now to do a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So
oh my gosh, no, you can't even.
Well,
I hate CE.
You said something a little bit that I just want to address, and then maybe we can work this into a little bit of the YP. How that's kind of come about. So for me, there's two learnings. There's class and osmosis, right? There's class learning.
I knew that's what you were going to say.
Okay.
I just knew it.
Well, again, when you say I'm always trying to be at the market center, the agents who I see without a shadow of a doubt who get out of the gate fastest are the ones that I physically see at the market center a lot.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, they're not really doing a lot. They're just sort of sitting in a room, maybe on their computer, probably drafting a Facebook post or something because their coach told them to do it. But they learn a lot more because, like you said, when they hear a class or when they hear an agent just walking through the halls on their phone talking to a client, they start to understand the jargon, right? We learn growing up
1000%.
listening to our parents. I learned how to be a real estate agent listening to my real estate parents just at the market center. I just went every single day and I just kind of sat down in an area that I could kind of hear everybody. It wasn't great for my productivity, but it was really great for my kind of education.
That was like a long-term play.
Oh, very much
And
so.
I agree too. Like I came from an office that was very open door. So it was even like my coach, shout out Heather Ayala was my productivity coach, who is probably one of the best productivity coaches, at least at minimal in the region.
Mm-hmm.
She was like real hard ass, like really got on me on a lot of stuff at a lot of times where I maybe hated her for it, but I'm thankful for it now. I remember one day she was like, get up, go to Dave Marcola's office, knock on his door and tell him that you want to shadow an open house and see if he'll let you. And I was literally, and I'm not afraid to do stuff, but I wanted to shit myself because he was like scary. And so I go, she's like, I'm not letting you come back to coaching until you go do it. And I was like, okay. So I go and I knock on his door and I'm like, hey, can I shadow your open houses? We met like one time in a class. We didn't meet. He just happened to be sitting in the class. And he looks at me and he's like, sure. And like gives me the address. He's like, this is the time. Be there. And I was like, okay, great,
How'd
whatever.
the open house go?
He had 2 open houses in Newtown. They were fine.
Okay.
He was actually only like 2 or 3 years in the business, maybe at that time, but he was doing luxury real estate, very good marketer, came from corporate America, and he was just really good out of the gate. But the reason why I brought that up is because I did that a lot once I was comfortable with doing that. So it wasn't just sitting in the classes and listening. It was just putting myself out there, knocking on doors. If new agents were recruited to the office that were already heavily in the business, I would go out of my way and I would introduce myself and be like, hey, like I'm always here. And like, I'm pretty good with, our CRM. So if you ever like can't get to our tech trainer or somebody have a quick question, like, and you see me, grab me, like I figured out whatever way I could provide value in exchange of being allowed in those circles or like allowed to be listening to something that's going on from someone that has more experience than me was how I like did what you're saying.
You're kicking on a theme here that I think I've picked up and you picked up, but we maybe did it slightly accidentally. And it is probably a pretty foundational piece to our success as agents that maybe gets glossed over. And I think
This episode is sponsored by Tri-City Mechanical. For quick results with leaking faucets, clogged drains, broken pipes, new heating, or air conditioning, you can count on Tri-City Mechanical to arrive quickly and fix or replace the problem. Licensed and insured, Tri-City provides plumbing services, drain cleaning, all of your HVAC needs, and more. Tri-City services North and South Jersey, along with Bucks County and Philadelphia, and is available 24/7 by calling 609-323-7563.
Look, when you come in, let's say you are somebody who's under 25 or under 30 years old, getting into real estate and you're a new agent, and you're fearful that you don't have an exchange rate with senior agents.
Yeah.
They know everything more than you. And so there's not a whole lot that you can then offer back to them in order to have an equitable exchange of their information and value to you as you to them. What's the average age of realtors? It's
55.
It's still a good bit older than where I sit today at 31, almost 32. And when I came in, that's why technology was so important. I found there was a gap in terms of the money that was being brought into this office and who was bringing that in. Most team owners that were, and senior agents who were in that 45 to 65-year-old age bracket. And I found that they had an incredible dearth of knowledge or lack of knowledge with technology. And this was it wasn't right when CRMs were becoming popular. I think that was popularized probably about 5 to 10 years before that to make it seriously. But we were finally at a point of critical adoption with those agents, recognizing that they are not going to be able to have the businesses that they're being sold at Family Reunion Mega Camp and the different classes unless they started to adopt this.
Yeah.
And so I just found a niche in understanding those platforms 5% better than they did. Not completely. And I think that's the biggest mistake that people make is I feel like they have to, and this go back to that imposter syndrome. You don't have to know a subject completely to teach it. You just have to be the fourth grader's dad each night reading the chapter ahead to teach them the math homework the next morning.
Yeah.
He doesn't know the whole math textbook. He's just one chapter ahead of his kid. Yeah. And that way he's always in front. That's the same thing. I would just learn what was newest in technology first, and then I would just teach it to him the next week. And for them, it was a constant source of content.
Yeah.
Right. And you kind of back out. No, yeah, I was teaching and it was an exchange rate and everything. But really, I was providing content, real life content to an audience who found that they could use me to implement their systems more efficiently to make more money. Yeah. And that's where I started getting in with a lot more agents doing private consulting and doing technology consulting with them.
Yeah, that's pretty much what you were saying. It's right that we're very similar with that because you were more on the consulting and like organization side and CRM and database and all that kind of stuff. And I was on the only thing that I knew before real estate was my social media. So like as just a 20-year-old that is proficient in just having social media most of my life, that was how I grew my business. And I was able to use that as a value proposition for other agents. And so I think that was something that I leaned on in the same way that you did in order to kind of create those relationships and provide value and do all those things. And it was kind of an exchange for a while until I obviously started to like, you know, do consulting as well and like make money.
Both of our initial interest in real estate led us to become friends.
Yeah.
And that was because we didn't know each other prior to Young Professionals. Mm-hmm. And when they were founding the board, your friend Kate and Brett, and when they launched our chapter, that was basically December 2019. We kind of launched January 2020, right?
November, I think, is when I had my first call. That's right. And was like, hey, yeah, and I think you were right around the same time. I think you may have been on there like 1 week or 2 weeks prior to me. I was one of the last placements on the board with Kevin. Mm-hmm. Right. And it was like, hey, we have this Young Professionals thing. A friend of ours from the office recommended me the vice president. And they said, we had the social chair. You would be running the social media channels for us. This is a requirement. We need your disc test. We need your KPA. Oh, yeah. And you need to sign this covenant. And hey, do you want to do it? Yes or no? Are you in or out? Tell us now. Yeah. And that was Kate, rewind at the time. And she was very hard. Her and Brett together at that time were very strict on the expectations of a board chair, which I think makes our chapter stand out from most because we still to this day, even though they've both moved forward, we still hold that standard. And I think that's what keeps us together. But yeah, that's how we met.
Yeah, you were the social media girl and I was the tech guy.
Yeah, communications and social media. And we, not gonna lie, we were pretty much the glue. Because nothing goes on unless it gets put out there.
No, you're right. I mean, I don't want to.
We're not going to take credit because everybody. No, well, I will say that I am surprised how well we've maintained about 9 people working together. Like everything we did, especially in that first year, was so collaborative. It was never like one person's just going to go do this. It was like, here's the idea. Here's the weekly meeting. What do we think about it? Great. Who's in charge of that? Okay, good to go, do it. And it was like that very smoothly for a very long time. And we still pretty much do that. I think you as a president have given a lot of the chairs a little bit more leeway to kind of implement what they want to do because obviously you're here for a reason, right? Like you've gotten this chair position because you've stepped up to the plate, you've shown you want to be here, and you also have the ability to do so. But we still work at that level. And of course, like we would not be where we are today without every single person who has been or is still on the board. Yeah. I just think from a communication side, right? Like even push me aside. Like your role in the beginning is nobody would know about the chapter unless we had
we were
emails
we were
or we
the
had,
mouthpiece,
so it's like the education chair or the president or events or culture or anybody that's involved cannot be successful with their role without having someone to tell everybody about it.
And you had to, while you may have your own qualms in your own business about, do I want to send another email this month? I feel like I've already hit these guys so many times with my information, but you didn't have that choice.
No.
on the board because it was a living entity outside of yourself that you were asked to fill a cog at a wheel and you were expected to do your part. And so, yeah, there were times that we would send 6 to 8 emails to sometimes more a month for some of the stuff that we had going on. And we're sending this not only to just a chapter audience at that time, 80 to 120 members. We were also sending it to the entire non-member eligible base of 40 and under in our entire region, which was close to 5,000 people.
Yeah. So just like a little bit of background on that, we are the Keller Williams Young Professionals is a national segment division in the company. We are the largest chapter. We are the first regional chapter. It covers PA, New Jersey, and Delaware. And how many members are we sitting at today?
We're sitting at right about 120.
Okay.
Yeah.
And really no one's even close to that because Canada was, and now they're kind of like,
Canada was. They're a little bit lower at this point of where they were. Again, I think Canada had a lot in one city, and I think there was a lot of rollovers that happened. But that's also they have a geography difficulty that we have as well, but on a much different scale.
Yeah, I mean we have 46 market centers that we can pull from, and most chapters have like under 5 market centers, and most chapters are around 25 to 40 members at most, and that's like all they're really going to be capable of getting. We have 3,400 eligible people in the region.
I think it's actually even higher than that.
Yeah.
And I think the other part, it's difficult too because we get an eligible roster, and there's so much attrition at the market center level about aging out, leaving Keller Williams, joining a week after we get our list. So it's always a fluctuating number, but I think it's actually closer to like 4,500.
Yeah, I think 3,400. I think was when we first launched.
And we're at about 11,000 agents in the region.
Yeah,
right?
and that's
roughly.
Just Keller Williams.
That's just Keller Williams.
Think about
agents
that.
in the
I
region.
have I think there's around 1,200 Can I talk? I think there's around 1,200 Keller Williams agents of all ages in Philadelphia.
Wow. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Across the
Just
main line,
and
Philadelphia,
just Philadelphia,
Philly, Northeast.
Just Keller Williams. Think about that from like just a realtors in general. Like think about how many agents are actually in the city.
Yeah.
That's just one company.
Well, I think literally saying that is another one of the reasons why we've stayed in YP.
Oh, 1,000%.
I mean, we both joined it because we wanted an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
I think both of us felt good having our ego stroke saying like, hey, you're really good social media. Hey,
Hell
you're really
yeah.
good at tech. Come be on this board, Young Professionals. And I think both of us were like, yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah.
And that first year was a lot of learning. I actually think collaborative to a fault at times. I think there was a lot of, we
had no idea what we were doing.
It was also, we need 100% consensus, but like the time to make the decision passed 2 days ago because we were trying to get 100% consensus.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit like, look, I still think as a board, you have to be very collaborative. But as I've said a lot of times, we set our due dates, whether the information's there or not, whether the collaboration has happened or not. We have due dates that have to be hit. And yes, every once in a while, a decision is going to be made that did not have every pot and every hand in the pot that should have made that decision.
Yeah.
It's also a volunteer organization. We offer opportunities for you to give us feedback on multiple channels in Slack, our Facebook group, our weekly meetings, our Friday masterminds. So you have all the opportunity to give that feedback when you want. But based on, it's Friday at 5, and I said we're making a decision at Friday at 5. If I've had 100 people weigh in on that, or if I've had nobody weigh in on that, Friday at 5, that decision is going to get made. And I think setting a standard around that, concrete deliverables, like you said, going back to taking pride in our chapter and what we've put off. I also think sticking to that quite rigid schedule and kind of no BS in terms of when things have to get done. And this business entity is above all of us. It's above you getting sick. It's above me on vacation. It's above somebody else having literally, we've had multiple babies just in the past couple months.
Yeah, everyone's pregnant.
Right, we pick up each other's pieces, but the members don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care if you're sick. They don't care.
They're still paying their dues. And
exactly.
We still have to provide value. Yeah.
We have to provide that value.
Yeah.
We have to.
So it's a big value proposition on a recruitment side for me because not that I'm like steady recruiting. However, for myself, it's a reason why I would not want to leave because I don't know of any other companies in my market or area that provides the same type of community and inclusion and networking and education that YP does. Like forget even the market center level or the regional level. It's its own thing. And I didn't go to college. I did for a little bit. I went to community college for a little bit, but I didn't go away. I wasn't involved in any like college sports or a sorority or anything that provides that kind of like community where you like meet people and find people and that kind of thing. And so I kind of look at YP like as that for me, especially because I have made friendships outside of just business friendships like you and Kate and, people like my friend Kelly, like there's people all over the world that I've literally met from that and have like made a big impact on my life. So it's hard for me to even consider somewhere else knowing that I don't have that. Of course, the age limit's 40, so it's not forever.
Yeah.
But it's just such a good value.
Well, and case in point on the value, like you're saying, this just happened to me. What was it? What's today? Monday? Yeah, it just happened to me 2 days ago. Somebody was in our chapter, and actually quite friendly. They ended up leaving our brokerage to join a team. They had a pretty good. I talked to them about. They had a pretty good opportunity. I kind of supported them for what was going on. Neither here nor there, but they had questions. They reached out to me. It's like, wait. You just joined this new brokerage, this new team that you're on, and yet you're still coming back to your YP roots to do business. To do business development conversations and communication.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I think the value of that, like you said, if you were to ever leave, I think that's the thing that might actually hold you back the most from leaving.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even so, I have someone in another state that left for another company and they still send me referrals, just because of the relationship that was formed during that. And they even say like, oh, I miss YP. Like that was such a good like opportunity. Or I'll have people come up to me and say, oh, I'm at XYZ brokerage. Like, can I be a part of YP? And I'm like,
nope.
No, so sorry. Sorry,
There's
Charlie.
a lot of, as admins of the Facebook internal page, we have to decline a lot of people that request to be
just
in
randomly.
the group that just like they'll say, no, I'm not a member, but I'd love to just be involved. It's like, well,
so for people that are listening, the value that we provide as a chapter, I'm currently the education chair. I was the social chair from the beginning of time. And then just in the last couple of months, I moved into this role just because I thought I could provide value and it was open. We have 2 educational Zoom calls a month. So an educational class on Zoom just because we're a regional chapter and it's easier to do it, on that spread. We will do 1 in-person quarterly event. And sometimes we'll have one-offs like a hybrid, like watch party, that kind of thing. Right. But that's what we provide on the educational front and the networking front. And then we have our internal Facebook. We have our national Facebook, which is ran by Keller Williams International. Huge value prop there. And if somebody told me that I was going to pay $3.99 a year for a closed Facebook group, I would have laughed. And yet today, as I sit here, I'm like, I love that. Yeah. That's like the biggest value for me because people will say like, hey, I want to do a smart plan, or hey, I want to do mailers, or I'm looking to do an open house, or something they need help with. And within seconds, you will have 4 or 5 people comment, this is my plan. I just shared it to you in Google Drive, or this is how I do that. This is my listing packet. This is whatever. And it's so like open. All the people are just willing to share all the time. And so that is a huge value. The referrals.
Can I teach you just on that one point? Yeah. Can I tell you what I tell people when we start getting to that? So I always tell people, look, there's the different pillars of value for YP. We don't have to go over all the different pillars and things like that. But when you do talk about, and this is what I tell people what I've gotten out of it. Mm-hmm. I said, we go back to the books, right? I'm taking a book and I'm taking a process and a system, and then I'm throwing it up against a problem or a growing pain I'm having in my business currently. And I see where the edges are and I see where I can work in that. What I also figured out is that if I just did that method, it might take me a month to 6 weeks to basically really figure it out and kind of round it out enough to know what I need to do. With that Facebook group, I now have been taking that same problem, putting it on the Facebook group and just asking, who do I need to know or who's done this? Yep. And within 24 hours, generally, I have 3 to 5 people that I need to reach out to. And then most of the time I reach out to those people, and within about 24 to 48 hours, I'm in a Zoom meeting with Tamika Barron from Savannah, or Rob Folia from Tennessee, or, Devaney Roberts from San Francisco, or, whoever it is. And we're just sitting down and they're just telling me, okay, no, I did this last year, or, hey, I just partnered with somebody who did this. Here's our entire playbook. Here's how it all ran. And so what I tell people, what you get out of your, membership, right? Because it is a paid thing. It's a pay to play. What I say is that what you're going to get out of this is an acceleration. Everything in your life will just begin to accelerate faster because you have this sea of people who have gone out and done all these things and are all in the same mindset approach of, I want to give this back to people. Your problems are just going to get solved much quicker. Yeah. And you're going to be able to advance where you were to where you want to be based on tried true experience from somebody who's going through a similar experience of life than you. And they give it to you. Here's my playbook. Here's how to run it. And let me know if you have any questions.
So this just made me think about it as you were like naming off people. I take so much pride in having a real established relationship, connection, friendship, business referral partnership with someone in like almost literally every state. And I get so hype when someone says, oh, my cousin is moving to Cincinnati. And I'm like, oh, Dustin Hensley. Or my cousin or my family member, my mom, or I'm moving to, Miami or Fort Lauderdale. And I'm like, oh, Darnell. Like I have made it in a point that I've traveled and done these YP things and built these relationships so that if I ever have anyone who's moving somewhere, I know it's not just a name that I've like seen somewhere, or I'm not going to just go into one of the referral networks anywhere, whether it's Facebook or Command Thing or whatever. I have established relationships with these people and I know that they're good at their jobs and they're going to hold up a quality of working like that I would give to my clients. And so I can comfortably say, I'm going to send this referral out, because it's one thing to send the referral and it's another thing to get paid. So you can send a referral all day long and they could be just random people. You just pick somebody on a list. Oh, they work in this market here. Go talk to this person and hopefully you'll get your 25% referral check. But how much better is it if you send it to someone that actually is going to close them?
Right. And I think that's where, if we zoom out a little bit, even zoom out at YP and talk about KW.
Yeah.
I mean, KW, we do get together twice a year, big ones, family reunion, mega camp, right? We first get our agents in together, but then even of the agents that go to those, we'll call it the 12 to 15,000, depending on which one you're talking about. Not everybody there's there for referrals.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of agents that go there that kind of just do their education and go do their thing and they come home and maybe they exchange business cards with one or two people, but they're not there intentionally.
Yeah.
And then you take, so out of the KW agents who are doing more referrals than I would say a lot of other brokerages are, not exclusively, but I would argue that that's probably there. Then you say, okay, well, inside of Keller Williams, who's doing the most referrals? And I would probably point to luxury, I think does half a decent, commercial, I think does a pretty good one, land. But YP, I think,
it's heavy referrals.
It's definitely up there.
I think YP's huge just on relationship building and the connections and helping each other. And that's why the referrals are stronger.
So now it's taken one step further. So while I may have only sent and received my small handful of referrals over the past 2 years, what started to happen is that on our Market Center internal Facebook group, agents are asking, do we know anybody in XYZ place? And I just comment on basically every single one of them and say, hey, yes, I have somebody for you. Give me a call. And so now I've probably helped facilitate 10 times more referrals than I've ever done myself. But what it started doing to me is now I'm the guy that everybody in my market center comes to when they need to know about a referral source.
Me too.
And while I get to, scratch the back of somebody in Tuscaloosa 5 times a year, but I've never personally sent them a business. Yeah. You're going to be able to guarantee that if that agent or anybody in that market center has a referral for up here in Morristown, they're probably going to reach out to
Doesn't it just make you feel good? Like, doesn't it make you feel good? Like, you're not immediately getting paid off connecting Joe Ryan with Winnie Rogers.
Yeah.
And yet, Winnie knows you. She knows that, I'm just using her as an example, but let's just say, she's thankful for that. Maybe she sends you a cookie basket or whatever it is. And you're not immediately making money off that 3 or 4 or 5 minute exchange. Like, hey, this is who you need to know. But it's so I feel so good about that. I feel so good about feeding our national referral network, because I know it's all relative and it all comes around. And yet it's just it's not immediate, but
let me readdress the semantics and the articulation of that. Because when you said, does it make you feel good? No, not really. I mean, I feel good when the Eagles clinched, first round seed through the playoffs. That's when I felt good. I feel helpful. I feel like I have an economic value Monday through Friday. Yeah. Honestly. And to me, I don't always need to be happy in real estate.
Okay, so maybe it's a different feeling. It's not just I feel good, but it's if you're not helping people, I think that's a big fulfillment in life.
Correct. If you're just helping your clients and when you're happiest for them is at closing day, you're not really in this business to help people.
Right. You're in this to make
You're in
money.
this to make money and to have and that's fine.
Totally
just don't
fine.
sell yourself as something else. I think if you're in this for the right reason of you do truly want to help people, it sort of doesn't matter what flag they fly in terms of a brokerage. And it also doesn't matter whether they're a client, friend, mentor, mentee. It doesn't matter. You're just in this every day that you need to add value to somebody else for you to go home and hit the pillow at night. That's a big thing for me. I don't have anxiety. The only times where I'll be at night racing a little bit and kind of wondering and spinning is if that day I hadn't provided economic value to somebody. It's the only way that I feel bad about myself. But as long as I can continue to do that and know that somebody else is getting a little bit faster further, each day I wake up knowing that I'm living a value-based life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
I don't have to second guess.
Yeah. There was something else I was going to say about the whole connecting people, and I kind of lost it.
That's okay.
I don't remember what it was. Something about.
So what do you want to jam with next? I've given you a little bit of my story here. We've kind of chatted a little bit.
We've been here for a
A
while.
little bit into the YP. Okay.
We're at 44 minutes.
Okay. You feel good?
I don't know. I feel like there was something else I wanted to talk about.
We were gonna talk about buyers for a smidge, but it's up to you.
Oh, we could go a long time ago about buyers.
Well, how about we cut to the one or two little things.
One
I only
thing
have really one
wait.
thing on this.
When I had one of the last episode that I had, he said, or the last episode that we posted as of today, he said something at the end, and we called it "Leave It with the Listeners," and I jokingly said we should make that a segment. So you could leave maybe some advice for someone, as I got into the business in 2019.
Yep.
So it was going like this, and the chaos was ensuing. It was much easier to get clients. However, it started to get harder to actually get under contract because negotiating was kind of slimming. So now, as I feel that we're slightly moving into a different type of style of the market, what is some advice you could give to someone who is heavily working with buyers moving into this market?
All right. So this is one that I probably have the most to say on, and not the most to say in terms of a lot of things to say, but make it really impactful.
Yeah.
I've been in since 2014.
Okay.
We've had pretty decent, 2014 through 2018 was sort of just kind of ebb and flow, everything. We went into that, like you said, the COVID market. And what I found now is that, everybody wanted to say that phrase. What was it? We're not in a speed-based market. We're in a skills-based market. Like, yeah, I get that. It's still a speed-based market. The skills are just more important. And it's not that the skills that you have to have definitions of things, but you need to be a good storyteller. Mm-hmm. I could tell you the same story of anything. Take any single story you've ever heard, and I could tell it two ways. And I can either tell it as a horror story, or I could tell it as the most uplifting thing you've ever heard. That's my choice. I have tonality, and I have word choice, and I have body positioning in order to give you that story. Mm-hmm. Same thing with every single one of your buyers' searches. You could either tell it to them as a horror story, or as it's the most uplifting story that they'll ever have in their entire life. That's your choice. So what I would say to any agent is, obviously, you're not going to be able to improve your skill level overnight. That's just something that's going to come with experience, osmosis learning. But what you can change basically overnight is the way in which you convey the information to your buyer in order to get them out of their own way to make the decision that's right for them.
Right.
You have to disassociate yourself with the transaction a little bit. You cannot completely be in it personally. You have to objectify a little bit your buyers and your sellers and remove yourself from all of this and say, okay, there might be a lot of emotions involved. I understand all the things that they have going on. But what in my heart of hearts is really the right decision for these people? Obviously, I'm not changing their mind. I'm not trying to, bring them out of what they want.
Or get in the way of your own
exactly.
success.
But what I want to do is make sure that from what their incipit is I want versus what the execution of that is, I know how to get them from here to here. But they may want to go this way. They may want to go a different way. So it's my job to storytell, to scare them where appropriately, but also empower them where necessary. Yeah. And I think that's the one thing I would leave with people is be good at crafting random bullet points into a narrative.
Yeah.
And understand where to push on people, understand where to be soft with them. But that skill is what's going to make you successful over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think
being able to do that properly.
That's an great advice. I think aligned with that is like the whole setting expectations, and that gets wrapped into that. But yeah, it's definitely a craft.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to be a rocket scientist to sell real estate.
No.
It's not very hard, and yet you can be really, really good at it if you just learn a lot of these tools.
Real estate's not hard. People are hard.
Yeah.
That's why we say you're 50% realtor, 50% psychologist.
Yeah.
Because where you're going to actually have long-term success and not burn yourself out in the process is if you get really good at, and I don't want to say manipulating human psychology in a negative way. Mm-hmm. Manipulation can be used for the good that it can do, just like money can be done. And helping somebody uncover their own truths is actually a form of manipulation, but it's the good kind.
Yeah.
So just be careful. Are you manipulating people for the better or for the worse?
I think that's it. Okay, so that's it for today.
Good.
We'll end it there. Do you want to give your social media handles or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just on Facebook, you can always find me by my name, Connor Tuck. That's probably the easiest, the messenger there. I went with the Instagram tag of @CT_realty2. I was going to do CT_realty, but that was taken. So I went with number 2.
Got it.
So super cool. I know.
2.
Yep.
And for me, as always, @JulTheRealtor on TikTok, JUL_the Realtor on Instagram. You can find the Realtor-ish podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. There's an Anchor link somewhere where you're listening to this right now. We can find all the things. YouTube, if you feel like watching instead of just listening. Would really appreciate some feedback on there. And if you like it, subscribe to all your favorite streaming platforms. And that's it for today. And we'll see you next time.